Batman v Superman is probably one of the most widely panned films of the past decade, amongst both comic and film enthusiasts, and I think this is primarily down to the fact that the film was trying to do way too much. This movie was trying to serve as our introduction to Ben Affleck's Batman, the sequel to Man of Steel, our introduction to Wonder Woman, and a Batman v Superman movie, while also supposedly setting up the Justice League given the tagline Dawn of Justice. Now, I like the ambition, but trying to do so much led to a bloated runtime and a somewhat incoherent film. Though not all of the pieces in this misfit puzzle of the film were bad. If you're going to do a Batman v Superman film, having the destruction from Man of Steel being the catalyst for Batman to view Superman as a threat is a good creative choice, as it starts building the blocks of forming a connected cinematic world where the actions taken in one film receive ramifications in the next. Gotham and Metropolis being rival cities is also interesting and further helped plant some seeds of building out the DCEU, but because this film had so many things that it wanted to accomplish, it doesn't do too much with this, as even the things it does well get left a little uncooked and not fully realized. The characterization of Superman is perhaps the biggest issue that this film has. I just don't understand why they went with such a dark and bleak take on the character. Now, Superman having to realize that there's repercussions to his actions, even when he's saving lives, is an interesting narrative direction that this film tries to go in, because Superman is single-minded generally, but in order to be a great superhero, he should come to realize that good intentions are not enough. Just because you're saving someone or stopped a bad guy doesn't mean that you should have free reign to just destroy anything in your path with reckless abandon. And though this potential character arc of growth is set up fairly well, we don't really get to see any payoff for it because Superman dies, which means that we don't get to see Superman actually learning this lesson and growing as an individual going forward. So all the ground laid to set up this character arc feels like wasted runtime by the end. The dream or future sequences, or whatever you'd like to call them, that take place in this movie are visually cool, but are so far removed from the main plot that I don't think they serve the movie at all. The damage Superman caused to Gotham and Metropolis is enough of a motivating factor to get Batman to take anti-Superman precautions. We don't need premonitions or dreams or weird Flash cameos to get there. And they really just serve to throw the film off track, as is the case with most of its side plots. Batman's characterization in this film is also a bit strange, and him branding people being what makes Superman not like him is really paper thin. I mean, either make an actual legit reason for Superman to not like Batman, or just don't make Superman have a disliking towards Batman. I actually think this dynamic works the best when it is one-sided. It makes the fight more believable, as the stronger by far of the two would not be going all out, but it also makes sense for what their characters are supposed to be. Batman is the realist who has seen good-hearted men get corrupted, so of course he's going to take precautions with Superman, and Superman is supposed to be an idealist, so of course he's going to want to work with Batman to achieve justice. Just let the characters be who they're supposed to be. Now to get to the big thing that pissed people off. Martha. Save Martha. This was an objectively stupid way to set up a Batman and Superman team up. Rather than having this stupid Martha thing be what brings them together, we should have just had a super strong antagonist for the movie, so Batman needed to accept Superman's help in order to take down the big bad. This not only gets rid of the Martha bullshit, but it also gets rid of the Lex Luthor bullshit. And Lex Luthor is such an anchor to this film. He adds so much unnecessary runtime, isn't threatening, and if we just had a more straightforward brute force villain, the tension between Batman and Superman could then take center stage and get a more proper build. You could have won with Mongol, Killer Croc, maybe Clayface, Brainiac. Really any physically imposing force would have done fine to force a team up. And then you can end the movie on tentative peace between the two, as Superman thinks the two are good now that they've worked together, but Batman is still wary of Superman and is continuing to analyze his weaknesses, wanting to get close to him as he still sees him as a potential enemy down the line. And having tension between the two would have been great moving forward, as a well-polished group with no inner turmoil isn't very interesting. So I feel like the big goal of this film should have been to create strife between the two main characters, but ultimately force them to come together by the end. So in other words, don't kill Superman? I mean, how does killing one of the leaders set up a proper Justice League? Now, the reworking I just proposed probably doesn't sound as much like a Batman v Superman movie, but I think that was kind of a dumb name anyways. This could have been Man of Steel 2, Dawn of Justice, or Batman Dawn of Justice, depending on which of the two you wanted to feature more, or just name the movie Dawn of Justice. It really doesn't matter. The big thing is this movie was a rush job and wanted to get us to a conflict between two characters when one of the characters wasn't even introduced yet and the other only had one movie of development. This battle between the two would have hit harder after the group of the Justice League was already established, as then you would have had the great trope of everyone in the group having to pick sides. And we just care more about the fight as an audience if we'd gotten to spend time with both characters first. For the 10 minutes of this movie that is actually a Batman v Superman movie, it was pretty entertaining, at least visually. But imagine if this had a multiple film build-up to it. It could have been great. All in all, there's aspects of this film that work, or at least could have worked in a less cluttered movie. But ultimately, Batman v Superman is a classic example of a film that tried to do too much. And if DCEU execs could go back in time and redo things, I have a strong inclination that they would, given that the DCEU is no more and getting rebooted. With a less complex and more physically imposing villain, no ham-fisted Justice League cameos or dream or future sequences, and a tightened runtime, I think this movie could have been something great. But for now, we'll just wait and see if James Gunn has more luck trying his hand at a DC cinematic universe. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this analysis of Batman v Superman, please feel free to drop a like or subscribe, and if you agree, disagree, or just have some strong Batman v Superman thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments.